Let me show you the files that I've done here. And I just shot a whole bunch of pictures, pretty much pictures of nothing, right? But they are, what I did is I set my camera to take both JPEG and RAW at the same time. So in fact, let's look at that. See, JPEG, here's the RAW. Here's the JPEG, here's the RAW. The same picture taken by my camera within you know, a few maybe 100 milliseconds of each other. But once as a RAW file and once we created a JPEG. So let's put that away for now. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so what I want to talk about is, suppose you shoot both RAW and JPEG files in your camera, and but when you go to import them, you only want to import the RAW files and not the JPEGs. So how do you do that? Well, there are some settings in Lightroom, and one thing you can do is go to Preferences, and you can uncheck under the General, you can uncheck this item here, treat JPEG files next to RAW files as separate photos. Just uncheck that, okay? And if you do that, watch what happens if we go to Import. Notice you don't see any JPEG files here. What's happened is that the JPEG file is kind of comes along with the NEF, so it's called a sidecar, and that's okay. It makes the file a little bit bigger, but that's one way to do it. Now here's another way. I'm going to cancel this. If you set your preferences to check this item right here, treat JPEG files next to RAW files as separate photos. Now let's look what happens when we hit import. We go to import, and we go to our bunch of test files here. Okay, so this is, I think, what a lot of you are seeing: JPEG and NEF, same, you know, basically same file. Okay, it's the same picture: JPEG, NEF, JPEG, NEF, JPEG, NEF. Now, I want to reiterate again that I did not take these pictures as a photographer for taking pictures, but only just for the, I never shoot JPEG, so I needed to set my camera to shoot both RAW and JPEG. And I just, you know, it's like 8 o'clock at night, and I had nothing special to shoot, so I just went around my little office and just continued shooting pictures of pretty much nothing. So how do we just get the RAW files? Well, what we can do is go down to the bottom of our middle portion of our import screen to where we have this sort, and instead of capture time, set it to, I think, file type. How does that work? Yeah, look at that. So now all of the JPEGs are together, and then all of the NEFs are, okay, RAW files. Sorry, I should have said that. I have a Nikon D750, and at the moment, Nikon labels, or not labels, but the file extension, when it creates a file on your camera that's a RAW file, is NEF. I guess the N stands for Nikon. I don't know what the EF stands for. It doesn't matter. Does not matter. But the point is, these NEFs, these NEF files, are all RAW files. So what I can do is I can scroll back and go, let me find the last of the JPEGs. And that looks like right here. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to go all the way to the top. I'm going to hold down the shift key, and then click again. Now what happened is I've selected all of the JPEGs, right? Okay, see how this is selected, nothing else below that is selected, none of the NEFs, none of the NEFs are selected. And then I'm going to go to, I think you can go to any one, but let's go all the way to the top, and let me uncheck this guy right here, and look what happens. All of the other ones are now, all the other ones that I selected, in other words, all of the JPEGs are unchecked. but the NEF files, the RAW files, which are checked, which means that I can now simply hit the import button. So I'm going to import, and if everything works the way I expect it to, and it looks like it is, then we should have only NEFs. And to prove that, let's go to the folder view here, okay? And here's my folder, 72 pictures. Yeah, I had 144 pictures total, but half of them were JPEGs. So now I only have half of them. And which half do I have? Well, I have I have the RAW files, okay? All of these, I can go through this now. They're all RAW files. Just to prove it, let's go all the way to the end. RAW file, okay? So if you're shooting both JPEG and RAW files in your camera, and you want to import into Lightroom only the RAW files, that is the way to do it. Okay,